What about educators like who want to become better allies for historically marginalized and oppressed groups, whether it's based on race, gender, religion, whatever? Do you have suggestions for that?
We talk about allyship again in that course, in the two courses that I teach, and how does one become an ally? I'm very much about people standing alongside others and helping them to fight whatever fight they need to fight. Because I think sometimes, particularly since we're talking about race, what usually happens with many of our white allies, they don't know how to balance taking the initiative versus seeking counsel that they are attempting to help. And so I think part of that has to do with people just want to jump in and go. And some of that has to do a little bit with privilege and that, white folks can do a lot without much consequence. But black folks, we have to be strategic and things of that sort. So when we look at the civil rights movement, even when we look at the Black Panther Party or the Nation of Islam, very strategic. And when white folk were welcome to assist, they were informed in how to do that. And so I think nowadays, some people tend to just jump out there and go, and that can be very detrimental to the cause or it can slow up the process. So one of the things that I often talk about is saying, hey, with an ally, it's about standing firm next to or alongside these individuals and being there for whatever support they need and being able to be adaptive, flexible. But also, the other piece of it is being willing to just listen.
Yeah.
And I think that's really hard for people to do, especially when they've always had voice.
Yeah.
One of the things that I actually sort of really tagged into a fellow white colleague in music education, she's no longer with us, but I said, one of the most frustrating pieces about social justice work, especially in music education, is that many of the white academic scholars in music ed, they're just talking and talking for us. You never asked us what we wanted. It's like building a playground in a community without ever asking the community what it wants. But yet you go and you put up tennis courts and ultimate frisbee equipment and things of that sort when that's not even things that they're interested in. And you wonder why those things were abandoned. It is because you never asked. So I would say, one, balance taking initiative and seeking counsel. Two, listen. And three, I would say, which is even more important, is staying when it becomes uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that a lot of my white colleagues tend to sort of turn it off when it's uncomfortable. Well, white folks have light switches.
Right.
In this instance, you can turn it off and turn it on, and you can leave the room and take a break and, press pause. But my thing is like, stay, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you feel like, dang, what am I here for?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you have to understand it's not about you. We're not here to attack white folks. We're here to attack the system and to combat the system and the very thing that has oppressed us and has created, has allowed racism to be America's most successful story.
Yeah, but it feels like attacking white people because the system was designed to privilege and elevate white people. So, like, it's this conflation. It's like, look, we're not attacking you as an individual. We're attacking the system. And yes, it's helping you, but it's also really messing up other communities and putting them at disadvantages.
Yeah, so those are just three things, balance initiative and seeking counsel. Two, silence. Three, stay in it. Do not leave. That's one of the things that killed Michael Butera, besides what he said in NAFME. I don't know if you recall what he mentioned in a meeting. He was the former president of NAFME.
Yeah, which is the National Association for Music Education. It's like equivalent to CSTA. And basically he said that, was it Black and Latinx kids can't make music as well on like piano and guitar, I think, as white kids.
And music theory.
Yeah.
When for him to clarify that and to engage in conversation about it, he got up and left.
Yeah, like physically left the room.
Yeah. And maybe that's like a totally different situation, but I guess the point I'm making is that, whatever you say or whatever is said in the space, don't get up and leave because you're uncomfortable.
Yep.
But you have to remember that people of color are uncomfortable 24/7, 365 days, 366 days in a leap year. We don't get a chance to turn it off or to dim it.
Right.
And two, a lot of people here, even in these courses, white students, it's hard. For some reason, it's challenging for many of them to understand these simple, what I believe to be simple things. And maybe it's because their privilege and even their white fragility gets in the way. And I've learned to address it, but I'll say, you know what? Okay, it's not about you. It really isn't about you. And it's tough in the course that I teach because I'm like, my colleagues and I in this university, we have 4 to 5 years to equip you with as many tools beyond just teaching music concepts to go out into the profession and to provide a socially just learning space for the students you will engage. And if I am not on my game and being as tough on you as possible, not for the sake of being tough, but to create scenarios that forces you to think and forces you to be outside of your comfort zone, whatever that might be. If I don't do that, then I fail. And I'm just as guilty as the system itself. Many students, they squirm in the class a lot because I feel like so many people have waited on us to get this thing right for decades, for centuries, and we have yet to step up to the plate to do it. And I just don't want to be a part of the problem.
Yeah, I know there's this interesting phenomenon that I've kind of just been aware of in the last decade or so is conversations about race typically happen from one white person to another white person, but not necessarily a white person with a person of color. And it is just kind of fascinating that like all of a sudden, as soon as like a Black person walks in the room, can't talk about that subject area. It's like, well, why not?
Yeah.
Why is it all of a sudden that you're avoiding the topic and you're only talking to people who aren't experiencing systemic racism and whatnot?
Or it's another way too. Folks are looking for people of color to clean the mess up.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 43, which is titled The Shire as Metaphor for Systemic Racism with Joyce McCall. You can listen to the full episode as well as hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredoleary.com.